When's the last time you attended a great sales meeting? Or here's a better question. When's the last time you yourself orchestrated a great sales meeting? I know a lot of things changed in COVID, and one of the things that went by the wayside, I think, pretty quickly was having really good quality professional interaction with your team members. And if you're currently leading a team of sales professionals, having a great sales meeting that's well orchestrated, planned out, and crafted is one of the few ways that you can actually really influence greatness within your team and the individual team members that you have. It's a time to celebrate victories. It's a time to articulate goals, and it's a time for basic education and inspiration. If you're struggling to put together great sales meetings and you find yourself in rinse and repeat mode, let's do the same thing over and over. Let's go around the room. How many deals you got this week? How many deals you got this week? If you find yourself sliding into some really bad habits, I would ask you to stop and assess. What follows in the rest of this video are some very simple suggestions and recommendations that you might want to try to implement to make your sales meetings great. Number one is plan ahead. For every hour of sales meeting that you plan on having, you should probably be putting about 3.5 hours worth of effort into each hour of presentation for your sales meeting. It's like any other presentation, and it's not a rinse and repeat event. Now, you might be find a way to kind of template your sales meeting a little bit, where maybe there's 3 sections of your sales meeting, and you've allocated an education portion. You've allocated a celebration portion where you talk about what's going on and some of the successes that your team has had. You're allocating a portion of that to where we are relative to our goals based on what our performance needs to be over the course of a quarter or a month. I wouldn't necessarily micromanage the goals on a weekly basis. I would absolutely give people an idea of where the team is sitting weekly relative to their goal, because they have to understand, are we ahead? Are we behind? In any event, there's going to be opportunities to celebrate within there. So the reason why planning is so important is because your audience is saturated and bombarded with all other types of media. You're in competition with a smartphone that's going to be able to deliver TED Talks to people on a pretty regular basis. I don't need you to rise to the level of TED Talk perfection, but what I need you to do is plan out what you're going to say and take the time to do it. Now, here's another thing, a little shortcut, a little tidbit. I kind of have a tendency to put together a stable of 3 or 4 sales meetings that I can kind of pull off the shelf that are fresh and relevant, but they're still material and that I need to cover at that time. So if I have 2 or 3 sales meetings kind of in the can, then what I'm never doing is I'm never caught off guard when I have a really, really busy week, and then all of a sudden I'm sitting there with a blank page and I default into bad habits. I'm not going to do that because I know that I've got a couple of presentations already stacked up. Number 2, avoid administrative discussions that can devolve into arguments about policies and procedures. Incredibly common. So what happens is you get all these salespeople into a room at one time, and invariably there's going to be 1 or 2 who just had a really bad week because of some policy, procedure, or something that happened that they didn't agree with. Maybe you've already taken it offline with them and said, gosh, you know what, this is the policy and the procedure, and I'm not going to change it. We can't change it because there's a corporate directive that says that we cannot do it. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go back to your customer, and we're going to have to help them understand what's going on. So here's the problem. If you start having that discussion with 1 or 2 salespeople in a group of 20 salespeople, it's going to devolve into an argument. It's going to feel like it's adversarial. For God's sakes, avoid this at all costs. Number 3, know your audience. And so I've conducted sales meetings that had in excess of 50 attendees. And in every large group, there's basically 3 subsets that you need to be aware of. You have the folks that are newbies, you have the folks that are intermediate, and then you've got the folks that are seasoned sales professionals. So here's the situation. You need to be able to provide something interesting that's going to touch each of these groups. If you don't, if you take your sales meeting and it becomes, I'm coaching people on first year problems, or something that would be really interesting or really knowledge based for an individual who's got less than 2 years of experience, you're going to bore the living daylights. You're going to bore the living daylights out of your seasoned professionals, and they're just going to be sitting there thinking to themselves, why in the heck am I wasting this time? Number 4, keep your sales meeting mostly education based, or make sure that there's a pretty substantial education portion within your sales meeting. You want to make sure that your sales professionals are given the tools they need to be really at state of the art or top of their game at any given point. So the challenge is that most business meetings generally fall into 2 categories. It's either a reporting meeting, right? In business, you have 2 meetings, right? You have a reporting meeting where you're kind of reporting results and you're summarizing that stuff for an executive team. The other type of meeting that business has is a working meeting. The working meeting is that we have a group of people collaborating and we're checking things off a list. Now, the challenge is a sales meeting is neither of these 2 things. So if it's not, you're not actually getting something done and you don't really want to go in the room and report on results, those 2 things don't really make sense within this context, then the purpose of the meeting has to be something very different. The purpose, it's got to be professional development. If you're not focusing on professional development within your meeting, you're really missing a huge opportunity to shine. And lastly, number 5, get feedback. Make sure that you take the time after the sales meeting, at some point when a little bit of time has gone by, not directly after the sales meeting, not during the sales meeting, but what I want you to do is let a little bit of time go by, maybe a day, maybe 2 days, and then you're going to re-engage a couple of the people within your meeting and just ask for valuable feedback. Did you think, was it necessary? Did you find it interesting? What are some of the topics that you think we should be covering in the future? Really try to get as many people participating in this process as possible. At Reagile, we care about an agile mindset. That's a growth mindset, which means we have to be emotionally secure and safe enough to share some of these insecurities. Being a sales leader is complicated and it's a difficult work. Not everyone is cut out for it, but I guarantee this, if you're not asking for help along the way and you're not encouraging other people to participate so that the team can get better, then the number 1 limiting factor in the growth of your team, it's going to be you. It's going to be you. Don't be the weakest link in your chain. Ask for help when you're going through your sales meeting process and developing better sales meetings. That's it. That's all I got. I know this video ran pretty long. If any of you are struggling putting together great sales meetings, I would love to talk to you. Drop me a line, send me an email, and let's get together. Please hit that subscribe button, and don't forget, visit our website and schedule your free 30-minute evaluation.